But I know you'll come off it. City. Let's return to the studio and get underway with our Kickstarter discussion, looking at politics and the military in Uganda, examining the interference of security agencies in elections. Now, this comes on the backdrop of the just concluded NRM primaries that was on the 17th, Thursday last week. There is so much violence that was meted out on the electorate across the country, with the military reigning large, especially in some flashpoint districts or constituencies like Zimbabwe. Today's discussion is one that seeks to understand whether there is a direct role that has been accepted for the military or the army in our electoral processes, or, as some people might allude to, it is just a few individuals whose own character is questionable that continue to make the institutions look bad. I'm joined by Andrew Karamagi, a political analyst. He's here with us this morning. Thanks for making time, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
We also have a seasoned commentator, senior citizen, Captain Francis Babu.
Good morning, all of you. And last time I was on TV, I predicted the cold weather, which will go on until August. And this is because the sun has moved away from the normal distance near the Earth. Remember, it's about 90 square kilometers. It's now at 152 kilometers away. Okay. It's a phenomenon. It happens every so many years. Unfortunately, it is not only affecting Uganda. For us, it is cold weather and our neighbors.
That's right.
In other countries, they are having storms, water storms, which is taking away cities and roads, and people are suffering quite a bit.
That is right.
Now, people don't talk about this. A lot of people are sick now in Kampala. They are coughing. They're having breathing problems. They should see their doctors.
Okay.
Because they can get pneumonia very easily. And this, some of you who live nightlife, reduce it a little bit, because it might affect you, especially younger ones. You can see there's a lot of cough going on.
Yeah, that's right.
And unfortunately, there's also COVID.
COVID is still prevalent,
yeah.
No doubt.
So I think when we are on this media, like yours here, which is a very good media, people should know. And you should have a program of doctors to explain this to us.
That's right.
So that we understand it a little bit more. Maybe my brother.
I live in Southern Africa, so the dry winters, the dry winter this time has been a lot more intense than previous ones. So I was wondering, so thank you for explaining it.
No, we have to.
No, it's always a good one when you engage and interface with Captain Francis Babu. His ability to basically get you to understand what is happening there and then is something that we cannot take.
No, media is extremely important.
However, I must hasten to add that NTV has a program, Medical Matters.
Good.
We've just introduced that. So most of these issues are tackled and perspective.
But there are two there. There is knowing that the sun has moved.
That is right.
Distance. And there's also now a prediction we're getting a second sun in the galaxy. So people have to study these things, and experts tell us, and combine it with medical. Medical is the weather.
That is right.
Which is affecting us.
Right.
The other one is a phenomenon which happens after so many years. Things in the universe that we learn every day.
That is right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll implore the top people at the Meteorological Authority to get in touch. Captain Francis Babu has some information that could be.
Oh, they have it. They have it, actually. They know it.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, allow me also draw your attention to the realities of our time, especially the body politic. Last week on the 17th, that is Thursday, the country underwent what many could describe as the litmus test ahead of the 2026 general election. The governing party, the National Resistance Movement, conducted primaries, and given its numbers advantage in the body politic, those, for example, that were defeated have been basically written off in case they do not win their dispute with the Electoral Commission of the National Resistance Movement. Let me begin with Andrew Karamagi. What's your take on how the primaries rolled out and the conduct of the security forces therein?
Same script, different cast. Well, in some cases, the same cast. That said, I am reluctant to walk into the framing of the question respectfully, because because of my reservations regarding the definition of just the word election, which implies choice. How can you make a choice, free choice, in a situation where you are contending with the bullet? In a situation that has aptly, in my view, been referred to as the bullet versus the ballot. This interference or preponderant role of security forces, for me, takes away from the idea of people having choice. That's the word, as it were. Factor and you have moved away from what you would refer to as an election. Finally, just for opening, the NRM, which has existed longer than I have been alive, or ruled this country for as long as I've been alive, has consistently proven that far from being a political party, it is a vehicle through which military, illicit business, and ethnic competition is conducted outside of the laws that we've given ourselves, chiefly the Constitution, the laws thereunder, but also internal, I'm reluctant to use the word party to define NRM, internal documents that prescribe what this institution is and ought to be. So on that basis, if I could use that as the opening argument, as we do in the noble profession, I would contend that what we saw last week, the ripples of which are still in play, including one particular incident, and I'll end with this, of the former assistant, he's an assistant inspector general of police, but his previous designation was director he was director counterterrorism. Mr. Andrew who was seen in very shameful, for a person my age, that's like my father, engaged in that kind of embarrassing scenario, fighting, being beaten up. So this is a former head of a law enforcement institution caught up in a partisan brawl. I think that's the canvas that paints a picture that makes this, your question, respectfully, a false narrative.
Oh, interesting there. I love to basically be able to toss whether false narrative or...
Talk about photos breakfast.
I did toss it to you anyway. What's your take?
No. I think we are confusing issue. Let's untangle your question.
Okay.
It's got too many things in it. One, there is security in this country, first and foremost, which is in the Constitution.
That is right.
And the people who look after it, you have the army, you have the police, you have the intelligence units, and you people who are in government, in the state, must keep security, whether you like it or you don't like it. So that's point number one. So let's get the security out of the way. What are the security? The first point of call in civilian is the police. If that is not enough, it is supplemented with the other security agencies. The people who look for intelligence come from all sorts of security. Now, there is an ignorance how security is run in the state. And people tend to pick up one or two problems and use the whole thing to brand. For a population of 46 million, there are about 43,000 policemen. Well, how big is your army? About 45,000, about. And then you say, how many in the prison? And it will be. So what if you say that the total of those put together is about 100,000? They are looking after a population of 46 million. Are you with me? So that is, now, I'm talking from security point of view. In our constitution, those are there.
That is right.
And in the laws putting up UPDF, those are there. And the laws that put up the police. So once you have agreed that there is a point of security where the state must have security, then you know that is there officially. Technically, these are very disciplined forces. They're actually anti-partisan. They are not supposed to be. They are not supposed to be in politics, according to the law. Once you have done that and you appreciated that, the state must have security, whether you like it or you don't like it. Number two, we now have a democracy. You're talking, people here are thinking about a revolution, how we are going to change. You're calling it, you keep on using the word transition. Even that transition, you need to define it. Because each one of us has got a different sort of transition they want. Right? Now, according to law, how is that transition? That's another point. The other point, the behavior of our people. And then we go to another word, the rogue institutional security people. Who go rogue? How many are they? Lastly, in these elections, how many areas do we have for elections? Like this one, NRM. How many areas? Was it about 70? 700?
72,000.
Out of 72,000, how many had problems? Now let's have statistics. Out of 72, for you, there's Zimbabwe, there's also another place in Ankole where they had problems. So out of 72, we have how many? 10? 2? So we have a problem. Out of 72, we have a few people areas where they have problems. So once you have analyzed this, then you come. How are we running our political parties? We as Ugandans.
That is right.
So, my brother here said, oh, as long as I've lived, there's been NRM. No, his grandfather also had a party. Those parties are still around. They're also in a mess. So, right from the time we had political parties going into democracy, we've had problems. And by the way, now I go back to your army. Right from the time the Uganda King's African Rifle was formed, the army was used to quell any problems in Uganda. They did it in Buganda here, they did it in Karamoja, they did it in Sebei. And in 1962, when we got the independence, the Uganda army, which was formed then, also had problems to an extent that before 1966, half of the army, the leadership had been changed.
That is right.
There were the big wars. There was the removal of the kingdom. So the army has been used in putting up security in our political life, if you like.
Okay.
So these are all very important. And when I say they are important, it's extremely important for us to understand where we have come from and how the security organs have been used during the parties. So I am of the view, and it's extremely, extremely important that we understand where we are coming from. Now we come to your question. NRM, you keep saying they've been using the army, but NRM came from a resistance, a revolution, which was a thing of using arms to remove government. So the legacy, if you like, the vestiges of that one is still around. There are people who believe that is a better way for a transition. There are people who believe that's a better way to quell security problems. So we now go back. How many people are misbehaving and misusing these good, important organs that we're supposed to have in this country? If you go back, my friend Lee Kuan Yew talked about corruption. Now, corruption, a lot of you think is about money. No, corruption is about destroying state institutions where capable people with meritocracy are not put in the right places. And these people, sometimes if they are not there, these institutions are misused. Now let's go back. The other day, we had a problem in Mogadishu. Remember? People were killed. What did the president say? Wrong people were put into the contingents that went to where was that place? Mogadishu. Just the other day, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, we have 150,000 people, was it?
150.
Who should not be there. Then it is something in URA. Tomorrow, Now, the first question, who puts them there? Why do we answer the outcome rather than tell us how it started? And who is behind that? So, when we are talking about this, when we are analyzing things, please let us go step by step. When you put them all together, you give a wrong impression to the people. The majority of Ugandans during these NRM elections had a reasonable election. A few of them had problems. Now, it is those problems that we must go and find out why. And those who use the army, who are they? I'm sorry about the former AIGP. That was very unfortunate. And people should investigate it. But if you want to go into the which were done wrongly, it was not done by the army. It is the candidates themselves and the parties who have got differences. I've got a place where somebody won and they announced number 2. In the last elections, we have a place where they announced a mayor who they claim was number 3. So, if we are going to go into this, let's look at the behavior
of individuals,
of our political class,
and political class,
and look at the oligarchy, those who control power. So, I think what we're doing, we are mixing these issues. The majority of Ugandans are doing very well. It is this small group we need to talk about who misbehave. And, for example, there was a lady, I think in Kawempe or someplace, a lady of the army, who was telling people, please don't fight. I'm told she was arrested. If that is so, it's unfortunate. Because what we saw on TV, she was stopping a flare-up between the security agencies and the people. And by the way, some of us who are in these political parties have got bad manners. I've seen a person using a hammer to hit a policewoman. I have seen a young lady holding a police by the collar and slapping him. I have seen a police station being burnt. I have seen, so when you people are talking, you only talk about the security forces. You don't talk about the other side, which also sit there and keep on poking the security forces to come.
Thank you very much, Captain Francis Babu. I like the pinpoint observation, one that requires us to look at an aspect as an aspect and not necessarily cloud them into one. Welcome to the show, Enoch Barata, the head of legal at the National Resistance Movement. The NRM primaries are largely the concern of our conversation here, giving us a backdrop and guiding how we are navigating the role, which has now, according to Captain Francis Babu, been referenced. I'll be coming to you shortly. But let me ask Andrew, listening to Captain, as a country, when we attempt to find solutions to a particular problem here and there, haven't we tried the approach of tackling our issues, our contradictions in the body politic, our challenges at the social or community level, one by one? Has that given us the results we want? Have we, or must we, look at the oligarchs he talks about? Who are the oligarchs anyway? For example, that's the question.
Define it first.
No, you are helping me define these people.
Oligarchy is a form of government where the titans, people in charge of industry, also directs political outcomes.
That is right.
And that word is often used in a negative sense, because when people who are running the economy, business interests also have unfettered access to, or capacity to direct political outcomes, it corrupts the democratic process and suppresses institutions. That word has largely been used for several decades now with reference to the former Soviet Union, Russia today. But over the last 15, 20 years, we've seen oligarchy cropping up even in so-called established democracies, chief among them the US, where
States.
you have 8 men who own more wealth than half, the bottom half, the poorest of the world combined. That's oligarchy. I think...
Let me just add on that one, if you don't mind. A small group of people having control of the country or organization.
Yeah. I must be very categorical. I know the oligarchs and what it means and the context that he just offered us. The question I want you to answer for us, who are these in Uganda?
So, for Uganda,
that's a hot question.
it's a hot question.
And let's be honest about it.
And there are many names that are that one can be tempted to mention. But I think to refer to them as oligarchs is to misconstrue the context that we have here. For you to have an oligarchy, there should be a level of sophistication of that economy. Yeah, frankly, there should be a level of sophistication of that economy. I'm going to say something that might seem offensive, but we have a class of wealthy, I wouldn't use the word wealthy, rich people whose riches are not reflected in their behavior, in their worldview, in their cultural outlook. People just have money, bags of money, but there's no... First of all, an oligarch can show you how they produce, what it is they produce. The owner of Gazprom, I think it was called Yanukovych or something like that, Khodorkovsky. So what do our quote oligarchs produce? What patents have they registered with elder brothers of mine like Barata? What innovations are they part of? How can we trace their wealth and say they started this way, they now run a Fortune 500 company, they are... So for me, Uganda is too, if you think of, sorry to sound academic, but Rostow's curve, economic curve that shows how societies evolved from pre-industrial all the way up to knowledge economies. Uganda is still at pre-industrial or just an enclave, unsophisticated backwater that we cannot quite apply the word oligarchy, even though we have people who have bags of money, but and maybe even affect what happens in the politics, but to call them oligarchs is a stretch.
Enoch Barata, the national resistance movement can be rightly accused of harboring some pseudo-oligarchs, men who pretend to have money. And this money has permeated the body politic. We've seen the use of coin in the elections, not only the primaries that were held on Thursday, but elections that have been previously held, including all the general elections. This conversation has rightly been contextualized by Andrew Karamagi and Captain is the wrong person. We have individuals maybe that we should deal with, including the pseudo-oligarchs within the national resistance movement that are responsible for some of the violence that is meted out to the citizenry during elections. What's your take? You're the head of legal at the NRM.
Thank you very much once again, and I'm happy to be here with senior citizen and senior person, I should say, in very many respects, Captain Babu, and my friend, my learned friend, Mr. Andrew Karamagi. Now, when I was walking in a few minutes, I had Captain Babu make a very, I think, solid submission, and I substantially agree with that submission regarding the nature of our election, the nature of our the last concluded primary election, and his assessment of what the challenges are on all sides, the security side, the party leadership, and even the party membership itself. And I entirely, I think, agree with that assessment in general terms. Now, the comments regarding the oligarchy, etc., I think if you look even at your topic, we are talking about transition. We make the mistake usually when we speak of transition of only thinking of political power, and even then of only thinking of usually one position, and you forget that this transition affects everything. So even this economy that you are talking about being unsophisticated and being small itself is in a transitory state. It must transition to the next level, and so on and so forth. Perhaps one of Captain Babu, I think, has hinted on that. It would appear that maybe one of the things that has lagged behind in this whole transition and our development, I think either it has either lagged behind or we are losing it, is the cultural aspect. And that's why he talks about bad manners and so on and so forth. And it's very easy to dismiss that as a small thing. These days people say, why are you telling us about bad manners? Because they simply do not understand that good manners simply means you live the correct way in the community. It is you live with consideration of your neighbors, having regard to the differences in the social structure. So you have an appropriate deference to children, an appropriate deference to old people, an appropriate deference to women, to youth, and so on and so forth. That simply is culture. So when you lose that culture, you begin doing things randomly. Even a good thing done in a bad place, done in the wrong place, is actually wrong. So we must begin to discuss these matters with the understanding that we are personally involved in them.
That is right.
The idea that we tend to discuss things as if we are outside the situation. They did this, they did that, but where were you? They are corrupt. But who is corrupt? We are all the ones occupying these offices. So who are we talking about?
That's perfectly understandable.
Yes.
Barata. Gentlemen,
Yes.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go for a break. To understand where the buck stops, who has the mandate to do what. Because if you will say, Chris Higenya as an individual, there are things that you ought to straighten out, you shouldn't blame the military for acting the way it did. The military has more power than I do. It even wields the gun. In case I'm told by an army man, get in line, I will. It might not be the same if I tell him to get in line even when he's misbehaving. So, where do we begin? We'll be right back to hearing from what the Secretariat has in store as the way forward for those that feel that they were treated unfairly and that the election was skewed against them deliberately by some actors. In studio, I have Andrew Karamagi, Enoch Barata, as well as Captain Francis Babu, trying to dissect some of the deep and eternal issues that we grapple with as a country. And many times, you've heard the president complain about the fact that there are elements that he's also dissatisfied with, and that their actions might not necessarily be something that he pretends over or allows, for that matter. But for an outsider who is standing outside of the political frame, how am I supposed to figure out that there is an individual who is acting under a president under a minister and that his actions are not sanctioned by the power above. So much so that we've come to take the phrase above as something that people can use very conveniently when they want to drive a political agenda or anything that could be what they want to achieve. Captain Francis Babu, you have urged us to be very specific in trying to,
first of all,
conduct this surgery. You know, I just want you to take us through this surgery of the Ugandan problem.
First and foremost, let's thank this government that every 5 years we come to something called an election.
An election. They allow us to conduct an election.
Don't allow us. They have made it our culture. So that's one point. So it means there's goodwill. We need the democratic 5 years, and we have an election. That's point number one. Point number two, this country is good security.
That point is clear. You've made it very clear.
Yeah, I've made that point.
Yeah.
And that one we must thank government, because they pay these people to have security.
No doubt.
Do it well or not, it is there. Number three, our democratic process has got a problem. And the biggest problem we have are a multi-party dispensation. Are we running it well? Are we managing our parties well? Is it because, what is the main cause? I'm telling you, leave all these things. It's our bad behavior and culture in politics. That's another point. And somebody, very interesting, told me something the other day. When I listened to Lee Kuan Yew saying, corruption doesn't mean only money. It means killing institutions by killing people who can build a nation. You see, if you frustrate our good people like him and him, eventually say, well, I'm educated, he goes to America, he goes to Britain, he goes to South Africa, we lose the people who can build this country. And why? Because a few people believe that clever people are not, should be pushed aside, and you remain with a certain caliber of people. We need to
governable ones.
Yeah, govern. You need to infuse our talents, our people, our young people who are qualified to do these jobs, and not frustrate them. And then you must get all these things. Now I'm giving you the symptoms of bad behavior, because they even bring in sectarianism. Now all these things put together, we must fight them as a country. Whether you like it or not, the country must change, because we are going backwards. Our talents should be infused in the system. And this is where Lee Kuan Yew said, we need people with merit, meritocracy, to rule a country. We need pragmatism to make sure things are done correctly. We need honesty. If we don't have these things, even in our political parties, we can't manage this nation. So this thing of people misusing state facilities is not only here, it's all over the world. That is why countries like Singapore, countries like China are very, very ferocious about corruption.
No doubt.
So we need to become ferocious on our people's behavior. So we need experts now to help us. How do we get the right people in the right places so that we don't get this one? Now, all these things you're seeing, cheating here, doing this one, running around, pretending you are the only man around town. Do you know who I am? I can call so-and-so. Hey, how do you get an AIGP to be pushed around? Even if it is a former. This is a person we should respect. Now, going to a place and somebody wins an election, because they said it was going to be the election was from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Yeah.
2 o'clock is finished. Somebody comes at 7 o'clock with false results, and they announce him. And you people in NRM, you are destroying the party. You are not destroying the person you don't like. You are actually destroying yourself. You are destroying the party. The more bad behavior, like the one you're talking about, where military is brought, you are not spoiling the military. You are spoiling the party. In other words, the party gets sustained. And the person who is leading it, who is the president, actually becomes unpopular. So it's the other way around. You're supposed to do things correctly so that your president can become popular, so that your candidates can be respected. So the nasty things you do, they actually affect you. What was done in this election has affected the presidential elections that is coming, and you're going to get more independents coming into the ferry, and you're into parliament, and the president would get lesser votes.
Enoch Barata, I have 3 questions. Captain Babu, while we were off air, talked about a group that was given NRM t-shirts and occasioned violence or was involved in skirmishes that we also recorded on our social media pages as well as the mainstream media. How do I, as a person looking at the national resistance movement, distance the t-shirt, NRM t-shirt wearing individual from the actions of the national resistance movement? How do I also distance the actions of men dressed in military fatigue, complete with guns, from the army or the Uganda People's Defense Forces? How do I distance a former AIGP from the pseudo-oligarchs while he is involved in a brawl? What am I supposed to think?
Okay, thank you. But I can persuade you on what to think. but let's maybe begin with the issue of the hooligans who were causing mayhem on the streets.
No, let's call them NRM supporters.
The last time. No, they are hooligans because in the NRM we do not, as a matter of principle, support or tolerate that type of behavior. But following that incident, as you recall, at least on the following day, at least 21 people were arrested, and subsequently, a week after, another few were arrested, and they have all since been produced in court and charged. And we will continue following this up to see that those cases proceed and that justice is done. Now, how you distance those from the NRM or from even any other party is in having the system process that uninterrupted and interfered with. So if these people have been arrested for having committed some crimes, let them be tried, let them be charged, let there not be no godfather coming to say, no, leave them because they were wearing our t-shirts and we want yellow everywhere. No. So we must respect that system, and as far as I'm concerned, we are doing that and we are following up those cases. As for the involvement of the military in the electoral process, you have two points perhaps. The first is that the military is supposed to be there to offer support to the police in electoral processes to maintain security, to build capacity for maintaining security. As Captain Babu has just explained a few minutes earlier, we are holding elections in 72,000 villages across the country. So there's activity in all 72,000 villages across the country. Now, even without misbehavior and so on and so forth, you want to have good security for that process. The challenge then comes in, which is the second point, of the people who misuse these security apparatus, and those persons in the security apparatus
consistently misuse,
and those persons in the security apparatus who allow themselves to be misused. Because all these things, there are codes of conduct for the army, codes of conduct for police, just like there are codes of conduct, for example, for lawyers. But we know that some lawyers do very wrong things, and so
remove the phrase "who allowed to be used"? Because when you say "who allowed,"
they must allow to be used.
Soldiers,
no, they must allow to be used because
need to take orders.
They must allow to be used because if I am a civilian, how am I issuing orders to police? How am I issuing orders to? So there must be some sort of allowance for you to say, yes, I am going to do this, which is wrong. So they must allow themselves. I do not think that in the command structure, there are instructions that go and beat people up here, go and interfere in that area. No, I don't expect that to be happening. That is not a proper operation. So there must be some sort of cooperation on the part of somebody in order for this to happen. And that is why I'm saying they allow themselves to be used to do this.
No, but let's add something on him. In security, there's a word called rogue officers. Okay. These are people who go away from the norm. There are bribery in this country, and our security organs have been bribed in certain cases.
Captain, what you're talking about has happened so often that if the system cannot deal with rogue officers who consistently allowed to be used.
By the way, again, let's understand. There is also a difference. There's rogue officers, by the who are also very few. But as Captain Babu mentioned, you must also distinguish between the actual situations where security has been deliberately provoked into confrontations. Even that must be addressed.
The nation is consistently
and that must be addressed. So when you say that has consistently happened, we also have situations where we have seen consistently security being provoked in confrontations. You cannot try or attempt to disarm a security officer and think that situation will go well for you. It will not.
For a security officer,
one policeman who did not want to use the gun, people ran after him, took the gun and killed him.
Now that is a very unfortunate one. It shouldn't take the security forces or even the army off the.
No, we're not saying it's taking off. I'm giving you incidents.
I want you to make sense of all this, because what I hear is Enoch Barata and Captain Francis Babu urging Ugandans not to shift blame entirely on the state, on the president, on the army, and all these pseudo-oligarchs, and look into themselves first before we say the military has come after us in Kawempe, the military has come after us in Zimbabwe. Do you submit to that thinking right now, that Ugandans out there must be first take blame before they blame the state for all the failings?
I respectfully take a completely different viewpoint from what my elder brothers here have shared, because for a number of reasons, and I'll list a few of them. One, there's only one person in this country who is designated by the Constitution as being Fountain of Honor, Head of State, Commander-in-Chief, First Citizen, and all these titles. Similarly, not many people are in charge of law enforcement institutions in terms of the highest echelons of law enforcement, the intelligence community, and so on. These are few people, which raises the legal doctrine around command and control. So where you have consistently or repeatedly that every time there are elections, whether at a level of an institution or at an electoral level in terms of a district or a country, and arms are the ones mediating that exercise, it's unfair to then expect citizens who have done their fair share, their part of paying taxes and being law-abiding, and blame them for this misuse of weapons. Secondly, I take a different view on how security is conceived or defined in this country. It seems to me that from what senior citizen Captain Babu has explained here, security is synonymous with stockpiles of weapons, Yeah, that the
No.
presence
I talked about weapons. I have not talked
the
about
presence
weapons.
of
Maybe he's
in this country, it seems to me that if you are able to prevent, if there's no war, if there's no arms, if there's no armed conflict, then we are in a secure situation, which makes me wonder, why then do anybody who has any office anywhere is traveling like a warlord in Mogadishu or some such place, Baghdad? Anti-aircraft guns, lead cars with people armed to the teeth, you know, all kinds of equipment and so on. Are you secure if you have to travel like that amongst your own citizens?
Captain says there are rogue Ugandans who might want to cause harm to the president.
Then Captain should help us reconcile his argument, which I respect even though I disagree with his admiration and love for Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew, where we don't see this kind of armaments, but the country is in a state of peace. So is it a question of how much you can deploy and therefore attain security, or is it that you establish a culture of mutual respect, of adherence to norms, of equality before and under the law for everybody? Because I would end and argue that leaders shape the culture. So to blame individual Ugandans who have no control of these institutions is unfair. And if you'll allow me a second,
please.
Political parties are supposed to be the filters, the gatekeepers that sieve amongst their ranks to give us the best. But when you give us people who consistently conceive and engage in elections as a do or die, then we end up with the mess.
Captain, you have a minute. Submit and wrap it up so that Enoch.
Thank you very much. I think we are confused about all these things. This is a very simple thing. We have security in a country. We have managing our parties. We have a situation of the citizen. Look at all of them. My friend, you're also wrong. Don't say we are against that one. No, I'm telling you that this is a situation which exists. That's the model. In there, we have problems. And the problems of all those I've told you has been the management of the different groups.
People who do not respect the model.
That's right. Now, after you've done that one, I do not say one guy is an angel, the other one is a bad man. I'm telling you that we have bad behavior among our people. The narrative is giving us is that Western narrative of human rights. You're talking about the president? Have you ever seen the president of America moving? They even take an aeroplane where he's going. Even helicopters. When he's on the ground, the helicopter is flying up. So please, for goodness sake, look at other countries. Stop looking at Lee Kuan Yew. I was telling you about Lee Kuan Yew. Those were his ideas of building a nation, which are very good.
All right.
We can use now. Before I go, I'd like to thank everybody. I lost my son the other day.
Yes.
It would be very unfair not to thank NTV, who gave us very good coverage. I'd like to thank all the media people who were very nice. And above all, I'd like to thank His Excellency the President. He actually came to our rescue when we were in Nairobi. He also escorted us all the way to the church and eventually to the burial. It would be unfair if I didn't thank him.
No doubt.
Because he did it, he actually talked to me personally. And I'm writing something. I'm sorry I've been off for some time.
This
thing hit me took me very far. But lastly, but least, I wanted to say something here. On what we've been conversing. The president has come out and he has said he strongly condemns the incidents of electoral malpractices, including altering results, tampering with registers, using violences, and bribing voters.
Okay.
The president has come out publicly. And for that, we must thank him. And if so, where it has gone wrong, let him put it right.
Enoch Barata, do you think the Secretariat is going to put right some of the things that
yes, it is. Last week, the president appointed an election disputes tribunal. It is in place. It is receiving petitions. I encourage everybody who has a complaint, a petition, to please file it with this Election Disputes Tribunal. The Election Disputes Tribunal, while it is a function in the NRM party, operates independently from the Electoral Commission of the NRM and from the Secretariat of the NRM. So please feel confident to come and file this petition. I would also like to state just one point, and again congratulate the NRM and its members for having conducted this election. It is 72,000 villages
no doubt.
of universal adulthood suffrage. That is not a simple task, and it is not something we should discard. It is something that we must consistently work at to improve. I thank you very much.
No doubt, that's a major plus. Many thanks, Enoch Barata. Thanks to you too, Andrew Karamagi and Captain Francis Babu for making time. And for the Ugandans, the universal adult suffrage presented some challenges that you should accept. If people have lined behind you and they don't make the numbers, accept that. We are trying to grow as a nation, as a democracy.
With his wife.
Yes, that was loyalty of the highest order from the wife. Morning at NTV does continue, no doubt. Stephen Mbide will be coming up from the NRM Secretariat, where some of the issues, including the disputes, will be settled.